I think Rachel Reeves is an incompetent idiot.
Rachel from accounts?
She had, well, I'm not even sure she's ever worked in the accounts department. He's a dangerous man.
Do you think so?
Very dangerous policies.
Like what?
Well, one of the Greens' policies is they want to legalise all drugs. I'm not just talking cannabis, I'm talking heroin, crack cocaine.
Are there any positive traits we can learn from Gen Z?
Do you know what?
I don't think there are. For the record, I don't think there are. Hot headlines, bold opinions, and no froth. This is the Daily Expresso. I'm JJ Anisiobi, and today I'm joined by Express columnist Carole Malone.
Hello.
I've got lots of things to say to you.
First,
I'm going to
say, are they clean?
Happy birthday to you. 21 yesterday.
I wish. Do you know, it was yesterday, but it was the most unremarkable day of my life. Actually.
Really?
Well, because I just was working all day, and Tuesdays are. I know you said a swear word there. Tuesday is a terrible day to have a birthday.
Is it?
Yeah, because you can't. I couldn't go out because I was up at 5 doing some telly today, so I couldn't celebrate, and I was preparing for something, so I was just in my study all day long.
Oh,
boring.
That is boring. Well,
very boring.
You can celebrate by having a verbal
with
joust
you.
with me.
Yes,
perfect.
Yes.
Now this morning I hear you locked horns with the leader of the Greens, Zack Polanski.
He's a dangerous man.
Do you think so?
Very dangerous policies.
Like what?
Well, one of the Greens' policies is they want to legalise all drugs. I'm not just talking cannabis. I'm talking heroin, crack cocaine.
That's a serious thing.
This is their policy, and it's interesting that when I was talking to him today, he's not informed on the latest reports about. He talks about the decriminalisation. He wants that to happen here, and the countries that have decriminalised, he was using Portugal as his perfect example of how it's all worked, because Portugal decriminalised in 2010. It hasn't worked at all. It's been a complete and utter disaster, and even the people who supported it originally are now agreeing that it's actually setting an example for no one. Drug addiction has gone up. The streets of Portugal are a mess. People are shooting up in the streets. The incidences of hospitalizations for people who are suffering from psychotic episodes and schizophrenia have rocketed 30-fold in 5 years. And the Washington Post just went into Portugal recently and did a massive expose on this and what was happening in Portugal. And the consensus is now it just has not worked.
Right.
And even in places like Amsterdam, that you go to the red light district, everyone is taking drugs openly on the streets, smoking cannabis, whatever. They've stopped it now. There is no smoking in the red light, no smoking cannabis in the red light area of Amsterdam, much to the delight of locals who are saying, no more zombies, thank God. But it just decriminalisation does not work, because and his argument is and was that you stop the drug gangs and the drug dealers. No, you don't, because the minute you decriminalise drugs, the minute you legalise them, you have to tax them. People don't want to pay taxes on their drugs because the drugs become much more expensive, and so they buy from the drug gangs. So even in the places where drugs have been decriminalised now, the drug gangs their business is rocketing.
Right.
Because people don't want to pay tax.
Did Zack Polanski call you a fascist?
He didn't call me a fascist. He's called...
Did he call you a Nazi?
He was on the verge of calling me... was either a Nazi or a fascist. I'm not sure which one.
You could be both.
I couldn't be. Stop it. No, but he throws those names out really liberally. Actually, he called Zia Yousaf, Reform's deputy, a Nazi and a fascist, I think, on Question Time recently. You can't do that. That can't be an argument for you. But I just find it astonishing that he's so ill-informed about what happens in places that have decriminalised drugs. And he seems to think it's okay that you're opening up a world of hard drugs to kids who would never have had access to them before. So age of 15, 16, 17, they can get their hands on heroin. It's easy. They can get their hands on crack cocaine. Why would you want that for children, for young people who don't understand the dangers of those drugs?
Yeah.
But he's trying to make out that it's like a health issue. Well, it isn't, because when you take drugs, you're willfully self-harming. It's not something that anyone makes you do. And he was trying to say that it was kind of an illness, well, to me, an illness is cancer. It's multiple sclerosis. It's something that you have no control over. Mm-hmm. When you inject yourself with heroin, you have control over that. You don't have to do it.
Well, maybe it means the addiction, but I take your point.
Well, you only get addicted by doing it in the first place. And the thing is, I don't want to be paying for addicts to get help. I'd rather the money be ploughed into the NHS to cure people who have illnesses that they can do nothing about.
Fair. Well, Mr. Polanski, you are welcome to come on this show whenever you want. We would love to have you. We've had Kemi Badenoch, we've had Nigel Farage. Maybe
Can I come on when he's on?
Absolutely.
I'd like round 2. I really would.
Well, let's kick off today's show. Rachel Reeves, who has confirmed many people's fears that she will be considering tax rises and spending cuts in the budget. In an interview with Sky News, the Chancellor also responded to questions about whether the economy was in a doom loop of annual tax rises to fill annual black holes. She agreed that we are. This comes after a damning new report from the IMF warned that UK inflation is set to surge to the highest in the G7 in 2025 and next year, 2026. Carole, what are your thoughts on this?
I think Rachel Reeves is an incompetent idiot.
Rachel from accounts?
She had, well, I'm not even sure she's ever worked in an accounts department. She's blaming Brexit and the Liz Truss budget for having to raise taxes, something which she said she would never do. That and austerity. I mean, she has done more damage as a chancellor than any chancellor in living memory, and mainly because she doesn't know what she's doing. You know, she inherited what she said was a £20 billion black hole, which I'm not sure there ever was a £20 billion black hole, but she's now managed to increase it to 50 billion. So that's clever. Is that Liz Truss's fault? You know, businesses businesses are going to the wall because of the national insurance tax. Unemployment has gone up to something like 4.9%. We lost 267,000 jobs since her last budget because small businesses can't afford to keep people on because of the NI rises. She has caused havoc, and she has the cheek to blame other people. It's like, I wonder if she thinks that we're all stupid and that we don't see what's going on, and we don't read about what's going on, and we don't see the catastrophic decisions she's made and the result of those decisions. But she's gone to Washington. She's arrived in Washington today, and she's going to tell them that Britain is doing brilliantly well. And it's just not true. We're on the verge of collapse thanks to her. You know, inflation is higher than it's been for once. She inherited an inflation of 2%. It's now, I don't know, is it 3.5 or 3.9 or something? But she inherited one of the fastest growing economies in the G7. We are no longer that. The Bank of England has already said they're warning about recession. They're not going to be able to put interest rates down now, which we thought, you know, the interest rates. I mean, I've spoken to brokers about 6 months ago who thought there'd be 4 or 5 interest rate decreases this year. That's not going to happen now. I mean, we've had a couple, but there's not going to be any more. And she's done all this, and she's prepping us for the next budget where she's going to do even more damage. And my worry is she is so incompetent that when we get into that doom loop, there's nothing she is going to be able to do to get us out of it, because she literally is hopeless. And that scares me. You know, in the past we've had chancellors who who do understand money, the economy, how countries work. Rachel Reeves does not, and I still don't understand why she is still in the job. I don't know. Well, I do actually, because if Keir Starmer sacks her, he has to admit that a lot of the decisions she's made, he's okayed. Yeah. So it's going to make him look even more stupid, which is hard to imagine, but it is. And I just think, you know, she's driven away investment from this country. You know, there was a stat the other day that a millionaire is leaving every 45 minutes. But what we know for sure is that the companies like AstraZeneca and GlaxoSmithKline, who were going to invest billions in this country, have now decided not to because of Rachel Reeves. They've now taken their business to America. So think of what we've lost out on: the jobs, the investment, the money. And anyone with half a brain now who isn't an investor is not going to come to Britain, not as long as she's in charge.
Do you think, because Nigel Farage said this before to me, that if he becomes Prime Minister, he's not going to fill the cabinet with ministers. He'll put in people who are experts, which I think is a good idea. Our very own Harvey Jones knows finance inside out. We should be getting people like that involved instead of just going to a minister who has no experience in it.
To a woman who lied about her credentials on her CV and lied about her experience of what she'd done. You know, but the decisions she's made have been, you know, as soon as she got into office, she gave inflation-busting pay rises to unions, to the doctors, to the train drivers. How dare she do that? You know, we're in a mess now because of those kinds of decisions. And yes, Farage is right. You should fill your cabinet with experts, people who know about money. If I had been given the job of Chancellor, I would hire the very best financial brains in the country to have them in my office to tell me what to do. I might not listen 100% of the time, but when you're surrounded by people who know better than you, it's only a stupid person who doesn't listen. And now she's got people like Torsten Bell helping her, who was less smart than her. He just wants to hit the rich and drive what little money we have left in the country out of it. So I just the IMF has already warned and said our economy is in a perilous state because of what she has done. And yet Starmer keeps her in the job.
Starmer pledged to not raise taxes. So essentially,
he promised not to.
He's lied again.
Like how many lies has that he's told? Yeah. I mean, yeah, he did. He promised and she promised. And here she's doing it because of the catastrophic decision she's made. She has nowhere else to go other than to raise taxes. And the reason she's left this budget until November is because, like the idiot she is, she was hoping something would turn up. And of course, nothing has turned up. We've lost more jobs. Unemployment is worse than it was 6 months ago. Everything is worse than it was 6 months ago. We're 3 trillion quid in debt. And, we're paying, billions every year just off the interest of what we owe. We're not paying the debt off. We're never going to pay the debt off. So even if Farage gets into power, he's going to spend the first 2 years trying to repair the damage that she has caused, which is,
Now, a new expose has revealed details about migrants awaiting deportation and their access to a plethora of different comforts. Written into a £260 million 8-year contract for public services provider Serco are several provisions that some are saying are too extravagant for people who are being deported. Documents reveal a 65-page list of provisions and show migrants are getting free arts and craft classes, IT tutorials, and English lessons. Other perks include a welfare buddy to help them adjust emotionally. Also, free gym access and £5 a week in personal spending money. This news came out the same day Shabana Mahmood admitted Britain had lost control of its borders. Carole, is this fair enough? Should we be helping?
What a stupid question. Is this fair enough? No, of course it's not fair enough. Brits don't get those sort of perks in their daily lives. They don't get given stuff for free in daily life. Why should someone who has come here illegally get this stuff? It's just, they're criminals, for God's sake, and yet they're being treated like they're prized guests to this country. They're not. They should, the only thing we should be doing is spending that money and getting them on the first plane home, and that's exactly what I'm hoping Nigel Farage will do. Board games, puzzles, gym classes, art classes. I mean, God Almighty, it's just the money that is being spent. 260 million quid a year is being spent on just that. Just this. This is what they get when they arrive. This is when they first arrive. It is just, people reading this, people at home who are struggling on a low income and who are trying to make ends meet are going to read this stuff and quite rightly feel incandescent with rage. People, and I'm going to say the phrase born and bred here, I don't care who reports me to whatever committee for it, people born and bred here who've worked here all their lives and who earn money, and they see people who are criminals, basically, coming here illegally, getting the stuff that they can't have, and it's not fair.
I think the gym classes does surprise me because we have a pandemic in this country of growing obesity in kids and in adults, and we're not giving out free gym memberships to people.
No.
But I think giving people English lessons, I think that helps. If they're here until their case is decided, they're going to have to be part of our society. Maybe having them learn basic English
my view
is a
slightly
good thing.
different with that. I think if you want to come to Britain and you want to live in our country, I think the very least you can do is learn the language of our country. I think it is your responsibility to learn the language. It's not our responsibility to pay for you to learn that language. And when they don't learn the language, what that says to me is that they don't really want to integrate. They're not coming here to integrate, to be part of a British society. I don't think they give a stuff about a British society. I think they come here because they know they're going to be taken care of in a way that other countries do not take care of their migrants. So I think if you come to this country, it is your job, and if you've paid $4 or $5 grand to get here on a boat, it is your job to actually spend a bit more money on learning our language. In Denmark, I was in Denmark last year and in Copenhagen, and I got a taxi driver who was from Africa, and I asked him, how he'd got there, whatever. And he loves Denmark, and he loves it because of the rules, because the rules are quite stringent. So if you're an immigrant and you go to Denmark, You have to learn the language. And if you haven't learned it, if you're not fluent within a year, they ask you to leave. Because what they say to you is you can't be a useful part of our society if you don't speak our language. And I said to this driver, do you think that's a good thing? He said, absolutely. He said, absolutely a good thing. He said, because how can I integrate in society? How can I become Danish? He said, which is what I wanted to do. He said, if I don't speak their language, how? And I mean, Andy spoke English as well. So he was speaking Danish and English, which I thought was, that's the attitude. Don't come here expecting us to do it all for you. Do it for yourself. You want to be part of our life, our world, our culture. Do it for yourself.
So my grandmother was Danish, so I spent a lot of time there growing up. Their culture is so heavily preserved.
Yes.
If they see someone, even if it's a Danish person they see going against the grain, people will call it out publicly.
They do.
Here, if we see someone stealing sausage rolls from Greg's, everyone's like, oh well, that's what happens.
Do you know what I thought? When I looked around Copenhagen, I didn't see any poor people. And that's because their pensions are, if you've earned not much in life, you could actually end up with a bigger pension than a wage that you had in life. They take care of everyone, and therefore everyone is kind of happy, calm, stable. It's a lovely environment to live in. And when I was there, I was thinking, I've got a friend who's Danish from Copenhagen, and she's going back. She's a doctor, and she's going to leave here because for her later life, that's what she wants. She wants a stable country where people are glad to be there, where people like their country, and where they're respected enough. And as I say, where everyone is taken care of. There's a sort of socialism going on there. That's the kind of socialism I like. Take care of your poorest, your most vulnerable, give them a decent life, and they will repay you. And that's exactly what happens there.
So would you agree with Ms Mahmood that Britain has lost control of its borders?
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Completely lost control of its borders. And I don't know what Mr Starmer might be not very happy to her saying that. But Mahmood talking about integration stuff, hasn't she introduced this thing where people coming in applying for visas, they have to have English to an A-level standard.
Yeah.
Which sounds great, doesn't it? But to me, it's just window dressing from a government who doesn't know what the hell to do about immigration. This makes it look like she's going to make it harder for people wanting to live here, but she's not. Because if you don't get it to an A-level standard, what are they going to do? Chuck you out? No, they're not. Not if you're already here. They're not going to chuck you out.
Yeah.
We don't chuck any. We don't chuck rapists and paedophiles and killers out. So we're not going to chuck out somebody who hasn't got A-level English. So yeah.
Now, recent data shows some 70% of managers are struggling to handle junior staff due to unrealistic expectations and different attitudes to authority. Here are some of the biggest complaints that have been identified, which show how Gen Z, the lazy generation, are ruining many of our workplaces. They dodge phone calls. They demand safe spaces. They don't like wearing headphones that aren't noise cancelling. They dress down in the office. They are fixated on wellness and woke causes. They waltz in late and they walk out early. And this is not just me saying it. This happens. This is from a survey of many, many, many managers. And I witness it every day in this office with our lazy, inconsiderate Gen Zers. I give people feedback. Man, you're a journalist.
You're winding me up now. I want to explode right now.
When you're a young journo and the editor's ripping your piece to shreds, that's how you had to learn how to become better at your job.
I used to, on my first national newspaper, we had an editor called Brian Hitchin, who I adored. But he used to walk through the office every day. And if any of us weren't dressed properly, if the guys didn't have a suit and tie on, if the girls weren't dressed properly, he'd say, get home and dress to respect the people that we're going to be interviewing today.
Exactly.
He said, get up. And I mean, he did. I mean, and he'd say to the blokes, get a haircut, your hair's too long.
Yeah.
If that happened today, they'd all have to be checked into some kind of therapy. I just, when I was I don't understand this lazy aspect. I don't understand why they don't want to work. Why? I mean, I read one interview, a young guy in the Standard said, why should I work? I don't really want to work. And I'm thinking, what's the matter with you? And when I realised he doesn't have to work, does he? Because if he doesn't work, we now have a welfare system that will take care of you forever, give you a life you want. He's probably living with his mum and dad, so he doesn't have to pay for anything. So his life doesn't change at all. When I was that age, I could not wait to leave home, not because I didn't adore my parents, because I did, but I wanted to start living life, and I wanted to do things, and I wanted to earn money, and I wanted to travel, and if I got told off, which I did on a regular basis in the office. I remember on my first day in an office, I got sent home because I spelt the word Edinburgh wrong. Can you imagine what would happen to them now? The chief sub said to me, get home. He said, you can't spell, learn to spell and then come back.
Yeah.
So no one talks to young people like that anymore. Now, that was probably a little bit harsh back then, but I don't understand their lack of drive, their lack of ambition. You know, they've been brought up in schools where their every whim was catered for, where they're shielded from someone saying a bad word, where they're cosseted, and so we now have a generation of young people who are not resilient. So you have to be resilient in the workplace. But one of the things you missed out here is they don't like being told off. So if you're not doing your job properly and somebody tells you off, in my head I'm thinking, if you have an employer who's paying your wages, well, then you do what he or she says. A friend of mine who's a manager, she said the other week that someone rang into her, a young Gen Zer, and said, "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed today. I don't think I can come in." I mean, I swear to God, you'd want to sack them on the spot, because that person is not going to be able to do whatever job it is. They're just not fit for the workplace, frankly, if the idea of going into work overwhelms you a little bit. And I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I blame parents who have raised these kids to believe you can be anything you want, and if you don't want to do something, you can say no. You don't have to do it.
Well, you do.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Are the parents going to pay their mortgage for the rest of their lives? Are they going to take care of them for the rest of their lives? I think that's what a lot of young people depend on now. It's a lot of young people I talk to, they're very angry that I have a house. And they seem to think I should give up. I give it up and give it to them, and go and live in a hovel myself while they live in. And they say, and I say, well, it might interest you to know that I got a house because I worked really hard, and still am. At this age, I'm working really hard. So I kind of think I deserve a house. But they won't have that. No, they think they should just be given a house.
Are there any positive traits we can learn from Gen Z?
Do you know what?
I don't think there are.
I've just been harsh, because I do meet young people every day in this profession, in our profession, and it makes my heart sing, because I watch what they're like. I watch the hunger in them to learn. I watch the hunger in them to do their job well. So yes, I think when I see that in a young person, I want to go out of my way to help them and introduce them to people and help them get stuff, because that should be fostered, that attitude just now, because I think so few people have it. But a lot of the young, I don't want to call them kids because that sounds patronising, but a lot of the kids to me, because I'm so old, but. A lot of the young people that I meet are hungry, and they're good at what they do. But I think there's a lot of areas where they are very definitely not.
Yeah, okay, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe it's not all Gen Zers, but enough of them.
It's enough of them to make a cross.
Yeah.
Like, if I go into another coffee shop and I say to them, again, black Americano, please. And they get starting to go, do you want milk in that? I go, no, not in a black Americano. And then literally a minute later, they say to me again, did you want milk in that? Drives me insane. Anyway.
Right, next topic. Charlie Bigham, the food entrepreneur who already sells the most expensive ready meals at the supermarket, is planning to outdo himself and will soon be selling a 29 quid range of pre-packaged dinners. Pricey. The options will include more opulent selections like confit duck, a beef Wellington, and wild caught venison. Carole, have you ever paid 29 quid for a ready meal?
When I first read that, I thought, well, that's a cheek. And then I remembered that we ordered a Chinese takeaway the other week.
Yeah.
And it was about 60 quid and there was nothing in it. and I thought, well, actually, if it's 29 quid and that does two of you and it's nice, and then a bottle of wine on top, that's a tenner. That's kind of reasonable. And I don't know about you, JJ, but every time I go out for a meal in a restaurant or something, and I look at the menu and I'm thinking, and in my head I do a mental calculation of what the bill's going to be. Because Nina, my husband, we always have he goes, how much do you think? And I go, I do a mental calculation and I'm always at least 50 quid out. And my husband doesn't drink, so I will never have more than 2 glasses of wine. And I think, how did that get to 130 quid? I mean, how?
Because you had 2 bottles, Carole.
No, normally. I don't. So when you compare that to that, 29 quid seems like a dream. It seems like a giveaway.
I mean, it just... Because when I think of ready meals, I'm thinking you whack it in the microwave, and it's how can you be paying nearly 30 quid for a microwavable meal? But I suppose
you would put it in the oven. A lot of Charlie Bingham stuff, I think you put in the oven, don't you? I mean, there's another company called Cook, which does kind of ready meals, and they're a lifesaver for me because. And they seem to be expensive on the surface, but you can go and buy a lasagna for like 8 people for 25 quid. And it seems like a lot, but it's not because you're feeding 6 people.
Okay.
And then you've got to buy a salad. And so if they're good, and they are very good ready meals cooks. So if Charlie Bingham's are like that, and I've never had one, but
me neither.
I'm going to now.
Well, so essentially, this is a good solution to the cost of living then.
I think so. Because if you think of, people, a lot of people, and we do, I kind of do stories on this all the time. People on low incomes, a lot of them tend to live on takeaways, which are monstrously expensive.
Yeah,
I mean, really expensive.
Yeah.
So if they had a Charlie Bingham for 29 quid and a couple of veg, that's not going to be an awful lot, is it?
It's not.
For a treat?
I would probably say if you can't afford pricey meals, maybe spend £10 on a few tins of soup. Get some vegetables instead. Basically, cook your own food.
Well, you could
Don't
do
do ready meals.
I'm not eating tin soup, thanks very much.
And 2 bottles of wine.
You could
for Carole.
actually, you could make a soup better, probably as cheaply as you could. Look at your face.
Making soup.
Yeah, I make soup. Yeah, it's easy to make it, and it's actually cheaper than buying good tin soup because you're just buying
It's the effort.
bits of
effort.
veg.
Yeah, it's too much effort.
What, to feed yourself, to keep yourself healthy?
Yeah, just get me a tin of irons. Other options are available.
Says the girl who eats pop chips for dinner. Anyway.
Pop chips and a glass of red.
I love
Carole, thank you very much.
Nice to see you.
You too. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
The caffeine has worn off, and so has Carole's red wine. That is all for this episode of the Daily Expresso. Join us again tomorrow, where I'm joined by Conservative MP Esther McVeigh. Bye-bye.